Okay, my friends, I think this is fake. I don't know.
Hey Roger, and it's nice to see you attempting to use some actual skepticism for the first time in your entire existence. Although I'm not going to hold my breath for this to last, but it's a goddamn start. After all the giants and the dragons and the massive fish that you have thought are all the real guys up until this point.
It's on Archaic Awakenings, and they're talking about some exhibition in Spain showing off these bones of giants that are supposedly enormous, and they're making it sound like it's a real thing.
Well, I found the post, and of course it's exactly the wackadoodle nonsense you would expect it to be. But what I can't seem to find, and it's a real bugger that it is often the case, where it initially comes from and what the actual context of the exhibit is. I have seen claims of megafauna being the source, but it's difficult to verify in a reasonable time span. Not that it matters. Roger has way better evidence for giant humans than this paltry display. Don't you know he got rocks?
Now, I don't know if it is or not, but I can tell you what, mine are. Of that, there is no question.
Your gigantic fucking bones are real, are they now? I mean, you would think that you would present such a colossal finding. I mean, even if it's not what you think it is, because nothing is ever what he thinks it is, it would still actually be legitimately impressive if you were able to locate, source, transport, and display such a specimen. It's just the only problem is doing any one of those things requires a little something we call competence, something that you are somewhat completely lacking in any detectable quantity.
Now, this is, no question whatsoever, this is a real hair follicle.
I love the fact that your totally real proof man is both comparatively unimpressive compared to the large bones displayed in your picture, while being ludicrously large for a hair follicle. Like, if we said that's the size of a roast potato, if that were the hair follicle of a human-like creature, which is what he most likely believes that to be, that would be an entity, possibly hundreds of meters tall, that would have a head spanning multiple building stories in size, that would absolutely dwarf the one shown in that picture. And let's put it simply, such a creature could not exist on this planet outside of the goddamn ocean, because they would simply collapse due to the weight of their own overwhelming mass. It is just another example of Roger having no concept of how scale works, and the fact that creatures just don't become that big.
Now, if you put that on these guys' faces, it would easily work with something that big or much bigger.
So close and yet so very far. It certainly would be much bigger, much bigger. And the fact that while he's sitting there looking at the original images with the rock in his hand and not going, if I had a comparatively sized hair follicle on my face, it would set off trypophobia in people who didn't even know they had it. So large and porous your face would become. Also, imagine the fucking hairs coming out of that thing.
This is true. And this is real.
Well, at least you have taken to attacking your rock with the feather instead of stabbing your poor monitor with the damn thing. I cannot imagine how he explains that every time he walks back into the store with yet another feather jammed through an LCD. Oh, it was like that when I opened it. And you know what? That's probably believable because it does not take him long.
And we live on giant dead creatures which are rotting, expanding, and causing the earth to crack open.
Giant rotting creatures, eh? That would explain the smell, although that may just be me. And I'm sorry. So the giant dead creatures are rotting, but also have the consistency and characteristics of rocks that are, by all accounts, relatively inert. I mean, you just give that rock a squeeze and tell me how rotten it is. And as much as the planet does have tectonic shifts and volcanoes in certain places, the idea that it is cracking open and presumably expanding are, well, simply not happening by any stretch of the imagination. Roger, we would have noticed.
All right, I don't know whether this is real or not. I have no idea.
Well, then why do you keep showing it, Roger? You know what I would do if I saw a thing that I couldn't verify its factual accuracy? Well, I wouldn't make a fucking video about it, that's for damn sure. But of course, you just wanted an excuse to talk about rocks, so I can't blame you really. He fucking loves his rocks, does Roger.
But I could tell you what, if a real, true, honest scientist, such as myself,
oh, god damn it, Roger. I knew your beliefs were funny, but god damn, I didn't know you were also a bona fide comedian. Because, there's no way you're a fucking scientist by anyone's metrics. And honest, even if your nonsense is completely unintentional, you would need to know what truth even looked like to be honest, Roger. Goddamn.
was able to verify with these things one way or the other and look and extract DNA and whatever, because it's going to be in here.
Dude, let's just for a second entertain the ludicrous notion, if we entertain the perfectly reasonable idea that rock there is the fossilized remains of something. Do you know what we wouldn't expect to find in it? Even if that's exactly what it was. Fucking DNA. DNA, as far as I understand, simply doesn't survive mineralization. DNA is extremely fragile as organic compounds go, so the process of replacing it with, rock would utterly destroy it, making its presence completely impossible to detect.
You can get inside deep. This is a hair follicle. Of this, there is no question whatsoever.
Get as deep inside it as you want, Roger. It's not going to have DNA in it, and it's certainly not, unquestionably, a hair follicle. Because, I'll do it right now, I question that rock's position as a follicle of the hair variety. Boom. Right there. Thesis questioned, thus debunked. Also, the fact that it's definitely not a biological construct helps.
And this is an actual fingertip, 3 feet long.
Oh yeah? Is it, Roger? A 3-foot long fingertip. I did the maths, and you'll have to forgive me as I'm not confident in this. But if I'm right, a human-like creature that had a 3-foot long fingertip would be something like 50 or 60 meters tall. So the hair follicle is even more ludicrous, as it wouldn't fit on this creature either, and would still appear as massive holes in the poor bastard's skin. And also, it begs the question, were these ludicrously gigantic creatures just all sorts of random sizes in their various biological features, or were there all sorts of incredibly different sized ones, presumably from human size to building size and beyond? And, how often did they fuck each other? Because it's going to be super weird and all the time.
And it had the fingerprints still on it. There's the fingerprints that were still on this. You see the fingerprints, the sweat pores? That's that finger.
Those are just cracks, Roger, much like the cracks clearly forming in your sanity. And if that's a 3-foot fingertip, then your rock there looks just shy of a foot maybe on its own, having only 2 or 3 large lines on it. Well, I don't know about you, but my fingerprints don't look like this. Isn't that horrifying?
This is the hair follicle.
Roger, even you didn't sound confident about that. How am I supposed to spread your misinformation effectively if I don't even think that you believe it? Come on, man.
And here's the erector pili muscle attaches there. That's the sebaceous gland right there, the hair shaft, the root ball, and the hair papilla at the bottom.
I believe you. I completely and totally believe that is what you think you are looking at. But as we have discussed many times on this channel, the fact that you think that you see something does not mean that it is there. You, as always, are suffering from acute paridolia vision. That is to say, that you see something that you think looks like whatever and conclude that it must be what it is. Rather than the far more reasonable conclusion, haha, that thing kind of looks like X thing anyway, moving on. The fact that you have one of these out of, I don't know, how many you would expect to find in a person's face, one seemingly complete sample in a sea of literally nothing like it, that should lead one to believe that that's not the thing that it is, but merely the illusion of it.
I have a ton of this stuff, and this is in my
garden?
property, right on my property. I didn't have to go anywhere to get this stuff.
Yeah, your garden. I'm sure there are a ton of rocks of various shapes and sizes in your garden. Anyone with a childhood that spent any amount of time in any place even vaguely naturey will tell you that as children they found all sorts of weird shaped rock. They might even have imagined various stories that explained those interesting shapes. Oh, this one has a hole in it. I bet it was a piece of ancient jewelry. Oh, this one looks kind of like a dog's head. It must have been a rock dog. But then you know what happens? We put down the rocks and we go back in the house and never think such ridiculous thoughts again because it's a goddamn child game. Not an accurate or honest way a true scientist would do a science. It's time to grow up, Roger. Playing by yourself in the garden is not age appropriate for a million-year-old man such as yourself.
If I'm in Connecticut, I'm in a Triassic area, and this is...
In or from? It's so hard to tell. But, you know, assuming you're correct, being in an area rich with fossils doesn't make every single fucking rock you ever find an example of a goddamn fossil. There are plenty, and I mean plenty, of normal boring rocks all over fossil-rich regions. That's why you still tend to need people who know what they're doing to identify, you know, actual fossils, especially if they are new ones, and especially ones that would be completely goddamn groundbreaking to not only paleontology but science as a whole. A-hole.
Giant, and they are humans. The DNA tests I had done are human.
So Roger brings up this DNA test a lot, and his fans bring it up all the fucking time, and I have seen it. And to say that I was unimpressed is the understatement of the century. As far as I can tell, all it says is they found DNA on the things that he sent them. As in, DNA was detected on something that Roger constantly fucking manhandled. And it was there, all over it. And he was surprised by this outcome. This man is a fucking moron.
That was done 10 years ago.
Holy shit, there it is. And I told you, it doesn't say what he thinks it does. And I'll be sure to share it somewhere that you could take a look yourself. Because much like Roger, I'm no expert in these things. But from what I read and understood, there was human DNA present, yes, but not that it was specifically extracted from within the sample, but that it was present because it was contaminated with it. It does not say what he thinks it does, at all.
And because of people trying to fake this and fake that, and nobody believes anybody, nobody will take the time to look at this stuff.
Oh, they will. I certainly did. And wait, didn't the lab you sent it to have a look at it? And they did, and you got the results. Results mind that for some reason they didn't immediately phone you up, breathlessly begging to know where you found these incredible samples and desperate to send out teams of archaeologists to come and dig up your back garden so they could claim their dozens of fucking Nobel Prizes. No, all they did was check the samples you sent them to find out if the thing you wanted to know was present. Not that they could extract DNA, but they could find it at all. Because again, 'tis a rock. You don't find preserved DNA inside rocks. Period.
I had 3 things done. That 36-inch fingertip, I had a lung, and then I had a mud tip from, well, it's the whole hand. I have all of the stuff, but I used the tip of the fingertip to test it. But I show all this stuff, and I've shown it over and over and over.
Showing something that doesn't say what you think it says over and over and over again, waving a piece of irrelevant and frankly stupid evidence around while not listening to your critics, refusing to understand that what you have there isn't worth the digital non-paper it isn't printed on, doesn't make that thing more factually accurate. It only shows you as desperate and as stupid as you so obviously are.
Very, very distressing. And this was a very sophisticated test. This was not your average little quick pop and it's done.
It's distressing. Why? Because of what it says, or the fact that no one seems to care? And you can't figure out why that is, even though it should be pretty obvious to anyone with half a functioning brain cell. And the sophistication or accuracy of a test done is not relevant if you are only looking for a faulty conclusion and don't understand how to read the results. Which again, I don't really either, but it seems pretty obvious to me from both the vagueness of what it says and the fact that nobody came to see you about such a transcendent discovery that it must not say what you think it does. And the objects that you sent them simply aren't what you think they are. Because to be blunt, Roger, you simply aren't very bright.
And here was excellent quality DNA was obtained from that big, huge fingertip.
Yeah, and if I rubbed my hands all over a rock and sent it to a lab to find the DNA of whatever the hell I'm supposed to be, I would expect to find it in excellent condition. In fact, if I thought it was supposed to be ancient DNA, the fact that it was in excellent condition might surprise me somewhat. How is it so well preserved when commonly Triassic fossils don't tend to contain anything of the sort? It's almost as if that DNA is not what you think it is, Roger.
And from the lung. Now the lung is normal size. Here's the lung right here. That's the size of us.
Are you kidding me? Is this supposed to be from one of your giants? Or were there normal-sized people around the same time? Normal-sized people who, mind you, never brought up in any historical account the existence of mountain-sized humans striding across the surface of the planet and, promptly collapsing under the sheer enormity of their fragile bodies.
And I drill inside of them. I don't take it right off the surface.
First off, why didn't you just smash the fucking thing in half? Get a good look inside. All that cilia and bronchi will be right there for the not seeing because it isn't there. I wonder why you don't. And right, you think drilling into it gets you a nice clean sample from the center. But think about this. If I covered a wall in jam and then took a drill to it, what would you expect to find in my wall if I did some scientific analysis? Probably jam, right? Now, would it then be reasonable of me to conclude that my wall was in fact made of jam and that it has ancient jamine in it? And anyone who says I'm an idiot is just ignoring my important lab results? Or that the jam from the outside contaminated the inside? What do you think, Roger? Huh?
They all died flat like that in the Great Flood.
I'm sorry, what? The Great Flood? You mean like Noah's Flood? Like the 40 days and 40 nights thing? You think that everyone would have died in that flat and not every which way from Sunday as the incredible tidal forces throughout them threw their lifeless bodies about like the rag dolls they would have been, all flat? If there was such a thing as a disastrous global flood, they would have died as flat as you are a fucking honest scientist or smart. Bye!